The sweet taste of an ice-cold Coca-Cola combined with the salty goodness of peanuts. Have you ever tried it? It's one of the most uniquely odd combinations, yet somehow it tastes great. And in days gone by, it was a very common sight to see folks enjoying a Coca-Cola with peanuts floating in the bottle. My dad introduced me to this snack for the first time when I was a young boy. You see, growing up, it seems like my dad always had some sort of old car or truck he was fixing up, and I spent many Saturdays helping him. My dad would be working under the hood while I sat next to his toolbox. He would yell out 9/16 box-end wrench, or half-inch deep well socket, or 5/16 nut driver, each time that he needed a tool, and I would locate it and hand it to him as quickly as I could. I guess you could say this is how I learned fractions as a kid. Well, anyway, at the end of these Saturdays, both of us would have greasy and oily hands from changing leaky valve cover gaskets and replacing water pumps, or any other thing that needed replaced. He would always have a couple of ice-cold bottled Coca-Colas in a small cooler, and a pack of salted peanuts as a reward for a job well done. Our hands were both so dirty that we would just pour the peanuts right inside of the Coke. I still remember the taste of the sweet Coke and the salt from the peanuts in each drink. Even all of these years later, it's still a favorite memory of mine from childhood. Recently, I got to wondering, just how in the world did the tradition of putting peanuts into bottles of Coke start? Where did it originate and why? So I got to researching, and it turns out that this tradition dates all the way back to 100 years ago. Now, before I begin, I'm going to quote the great Albert Einstein, who said, "If at first the idea is not absurd, then there is no hope for it." Indeed. Our story begins back in 1886 when an Atlanta pharmacist, John Pemberton, debuted Coca-Cola to the masses. The drink was an instant sensation, and it immediately spread across the nation's pharmacies and department stores. Only a decade later, Coke was completely ingrained in American life. Now, by the 1920s, every self-respecting country store and filling station was selling Coca-Cola, and it was about this time that a new product began hitting the shelves in these stores. Packaged shelled peanuts were being sold for the first time, and folks couldn't get enough of them. They were a smash hit. As you know, folks in these mountains have a long history of being hands-on blue-collar workers. That's right, the type of folks that didn't mind getting their hands dirty. Now that's what made these packaged peanuts so popular with these workers. Since they didn't have a place to immediately wash their hands, they would just tear a little corner off of these peanut packages and pour them straight in their mouth without ever touching them. Two of the hottest selling items in these country stores were Coca-Cola and packaged peanuts. Folks would buy a pack of nuts and a bottle of Coke and enjoy that sweet and salty combination. But you see, that took two hands to hold both items, and working folks just couldn't afford to stop what they were doing because both their hands were full. So it was only a matter of time that someone put the peanuts right inside the bottle of Coke. Sure, it might sound like a choking hazard, but the combination of crunchy, salty peanuts and the fizzy, sweet Coke is a pretty balanced pairing. While you might think the peanuts would turn soggy in the bubbly soda, think again. The peanuts will keep their texture, and it provides a delicious snack for many. Some even called this combination the working man's strawberries and champagne. Now, it didn't take long for this practice to spread all across southern rural towns all across America. Folks swore that certain flavors were superior to others. Many folks liked Coke, and some swore by RC Cola. As for the peanuts, it was a toss-up between Lance and Planters and Tom's. The perfect technique was to take a generous initial swig of Coke to make room in the neck of the bottle. Next, you just dump the salty, roasted peanuts right in the bottle. And this way, you had a hand free to keep on smoking or driving or working. And it didn't matter at all if your hands were dirty. So, how did this trend taste? Well, peanuts, despite what you might imagine, are able to maintain their crunch and texture even after being submerged in the Coke. Sugary, fizzy Coke is elevated by the addition of the salty, crunchy nuts. It's a flavor combination that's essentially found all over grocery stores today in the form of sweet and salty granola bars or salted caramel almond pints of ice cream. In the end, you might say that Coke and peanuts were the first fast food of rural Appalachia. A fast meal for the working man who had dirty hands. Every time I hear a story about peanuts and Coke, I'm immediately transported back to my childhood, where I'm passing wrenches to my dad as he works on a 1964 Chevy truck. And after a day's work, both of us would pour a sleeve of peanuts into the ice-cold Coca-Cola, greasy hands and all. How about you? When was the first time you tried a Coke and peanuts? And if you haven't, well, what are you waiting for? And that, my friends, is the story of how Coke and peanuts became the sweet, salty sensation all across Appalachia. Thanks for listening to this story, and if you enjoyed it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to this channel, where I share all sorts of Appalachian history and storytelling. Till next time, my friends.